Hello and welcome to Take 6. I am streaming executive producer Thomas Mates, filling in for Julie Broughton. She is out on assignment today, but she'll be back for News 6 at 4 with your forecast. In the meantime, we've got a lot going on today. We are going to be taking a look at a new location in Pine Hills that is going to be helping youth dealing with homelessness here in our area. It just opened up today. Mark Lehman will have that story. We're also going to take a look at how FHP is trying to crack down on hit and runs here in the state. There were more than 100,000 last year across the state, many of them deadly. So they are working to get results and protect our community from that dangerous problem out on the roads. News 6 anchor Eric Von Aken will have more of that, and we'll be checking in with Lisa Bell, News 6 anchor Lisa Bell, on an important piece of legislation that is making its way through Tallahassee right now with the goal of getting more training with EpiPens into schools to protect kids dealing with food allergies and alike. So all that will be coming up in just a few minutes, but first we've got to talk about the weather. Let's take a quick look outside at Daytona Beach. Crystal clear out there, bright blue skies, not a cloud in sight. It is a really gorgeous day across our area with the weather really cooperating with us. We're seeing those nice 70s today, not quite in the 80s yet, nice and comfy. For more on what we can expect for the rest of the day, the rest of the week, and how long this nice weather is going to last, we now turn to News 6 meteorologist David Nazario. David, how you doing?
Doing pretty good, Thomas. We're back in the hot seat. I feel like I haven't been in the Digi Center for a stream in a little while now. How are you doing?
It's been a minute. Your schedule's been crazy, as you know. I'm sure people know you're in on the morning on the weekend, and then the evening the next day, and then you also have your military obligations. So you're all over creation on any given day of the week.
Quite literally. And then next week, we're not even going to be in-house. We're going to be out in New Orleans for the National Hurricane Conference, which I'm really excited about.
Yeah, I'm sure that'll be a great time. I'm sure there'll be plenty of hurricanes to enjoy while you're out there. But David, as I said, it's really nice outside, and it's all thanks to that cold front that came through and thankfully didn't screw up our coverage of the end of March Madness there. But it's gonna warm up again, but we might see another little cold front coming up. Let me take you full there so we can see your graphics.
Yeah, no, thank you very much, Thomas. I do appreciate the lovely introduction. As we start off with the water vapor, I think this does a fantastic job of communicating that picture, especially when you brought up the Daytona Beach cam. You could see we have an abundance of that dry air across the entirety of the Sunshine State, which is why we're finally getting some much better temperatures out there. We just had that front slide through. Although I will admit, if you look off the coast there, folks, we have a little bit of a little sneaky vortice, a little bit of a sneaky spin kind of developing on what's left of that cold front after it made its way offshore. It wandered over the Gulf Stream waters. It had a little bit of that jet stream that brought down the dry air for us, work its way up in there, and as a result, we're getting a bit of an additional flare-up in the showers and storms with that. That'll influence our neighbors to the north, but thankfully that dry air and these cooler temperatures, at least for now, are sticking around. We're not tracking anything in terms of any kind of severe weather here in the near immediate future, thank goodness. We switch over to the radar right now, and as you can see, off the East Coast, there are some sneaky showers trying to sneak in under the radar, no pun intended, or maybe every pun intended, since we are on the radar graphic after all. Most of us here in inland central Florida, though, we're going to stay fairly dry. That dry air is not going to allow anything to pop off. As that system off the East Coast tries to get a bit better organized before riding up the eastern seaboard of the U.S., we might get a stray shower or two into Volusia, maybe Brevard County. You'll see on the 7-day rolling forward, we do have a slight chance for rain today, but nothing here in the Four Corners counties or anywhere interior central Florida. Looking at the national temperatures, the reason I brought this up is just for a quick glance to show you all that even though we are in spring, it's almost as if winter is back in full swing. You see, there is not a 80-degree temperature out there in sight, even down in the desert Southwest where I was stationed with the Air Force, Phoenix, Tucson, Arizona, we're in the upper 70s. Same thing here in central Florida. And I'll zoom in down in, and you can see regardless of where we go over the next couple days in terms of high pressure, driving our temperatures back up, we've got a solid next couple of days in store. pretty much across the spectrum, even down in southern Florida, where we typically kind of have that gradient of we're in the mid 70s, then down south of us, we're back into the 80s, et cetera. No, we're fairly uniform across the grid, which is fantastic. Taking a look at the wind flow out there right now, you can see we still have those northerly winds. The gusts have come down a little bit, thankfully. And then off the coast there, you can kind of see that amalgamation, that clustering up of all the different arrows trying to spin in that low pressure fashion, that counterclockwise rotation off the coast. But because of the way the front is oriented off the east coast, it's going to be pulling away from central Florida. So it's not like we're going to be back in the bad weather anytime soon. Let's switch over to our upper air pattern. We'll take you out in time just a little bit. We're only going to talk very casually on this. You can see we have that weak trough extending over the eastern half of the United States. As we get into this weekend, we get another frontal system that comes down. Notice that we have the shades of yellows and the reds digging into Orlando, the northern portions of our viewing area. Could see a chance for rain, but because we are underneath that dry air now, we're not going to rebound as fast and more or less prime the atmosphere for any kind of substantial rains, let alone thunderstorms. No, it actually looks like we're going to be on a bit of a break. Here comes another rebound of our ridge. You can see some of those yellow colors and the shades extending back over Florida up into the southeast. And if I keep the clock going, it won't be until the following Friday, if you look now, we have a return to form, if you will, with a pretty dominant trough and cold frontal system down at the surface that will make its way all the way down into our neck of the woods as we go through the following weekend. So thank goodness for the first time in a while we can sit here and say we're not going to be looking at anything detrimental to your activities this weekend. So with that being said, I'll transition us to our 7-day forecast. You look at the next 3 days, that 20% chance of rain thanks to that little system, that rogue wave, if you will, off our east coast could drive some of the showers back into the east coast. Nothing too crazy. Thursday will be fairly calm. And then you can see for Friday and into Saturday, that's when we could possibly see with that next front a shower or two. But again, because we're dry and we have high pressure kind of sandwiching the air over Florida as opposed to lifting it, honestly, I'm hoping, to tell you the truth, that this weekend we can come out scot-free and rock into a beautiful start of next week, especially as I get ready to travel for the Hurricane Conference.
Yeah, definitely. We all hope for a nice weekend. I mean, it looks like it's going to be gorgeous, quite frankly. I know Trooper Steve, for instance, was talking up a big car show that he's going to be taking part in this weekend. So I know everyone's hoping for that nice clear weather, the nice, comfortable upper 70s to low 80s temperatures. So that's looking great for us here in Central Florida. And of course, we know
it really is.
You guys will be keeping tabs on anything else that might be coming our way. As you said, there might be something next week, but that's next week's people's problem, and they're a bunch of jerks. So, you know.
Exactly. We don't even have to think about that right now.
Yeah,
Just put
exactly.
it as far back in the mind as possible. Make some plans for this awesome weekend we have in store.
Awesome. All right. Well, David, thank you so much for your time and your expertise. And, I hope you enjoy your hurricane conference in New Orleans.
Thank you very much. I'm really looking forward to bringing back all sorts of spectacular content for everybody out there, especially as we get closer and closer to the hurricane season.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll come back with a ton of information. Thank you again so much.
Of course. Thanks, Thomas.
All right. Now we are going to take a look at an important piece of legislation that is working its way through Tallahassee right now. It is something that has gone through the system beforehand, but ended up stalling out in the legislature before. It's all about protecting kids, especially kids who deal with food allergies. Every parent knows that's a deadly serious issue, especially in schools. Tell us more about it. We're now joined by News 6 anchor Lisa Bell. Lisa, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Yes. How are you?
Not too bad. So this is a story you've been following for a little while now, and it all started with a mom right here in Central Florida, correct?
That's right. It was in the fall of 2023. And at the time, the superintendent of Orange County Public Schools was hosting fairly regular town hall meetings throughout Orange County. And I happened to attend one. And this mom came there speaking up with real concerns about the safety and the well-being of her young son, who at the time was in first grade. And basically, he suffers from severe food allergies, which could be deadly if he does not have access to his EpiPen. And she was concerned because she feels like A lot of parents weren't aware of the fact that in before and after care programs within OCPS, at the time, kids might not have access to their EpiPen, or the staff might not be trained on how to recognize signs of anaphylaxis or how to administer an EpiPen, which, by the way, is a very simple process. So she wanted to bring that to the superintendent's attention. Once she did, OCPS responded and basically made it a requirement that their third party vendors, which many of them they rely on for running their before and after school programs, have staff that are trained in how to recognize signs of anaphylaxis and can administer an EpiPen. But this mom wasn't done and wasn't satisfied with that, because sadly she sees year after year kids die from having an allergic reaction, and sometimes that happens at school or on school property in after school events, games, dances, whatever. So she's been pushing now, this is her second year, for legislation to make training required for people who are running before school, after school care programs, as well as staff who is on campus for after school extracurricular activities such as games, dances, things like that. Last year, this bill did not make it into a committee. This year, it is in the committee. In fact, it just passed the second House committee that it needed to pass yesterday. It still has two more Senate committees that it needs to get through before it can get to a full vote. She is hopeful that that will happen. But let's go ahead and listen to some of her story. You can hear her in her own words talk about why this is so important.
So you pulled this one out?
We first met Lincoln Isler back in 2023 when he was in the first grade at Aloma Elementary School in Orange County. Tell me, what happens if you eat some milk or cheese?
My throat will start closing up and I need help getting an EpiPen even though I can do it myself.
Lincoln suffers from life-threatening food allergies.
On the first day of school in the morning, I went to drop him off and I asked the caregiver there from the before and after school care program who would be responsible, like what do they need to know? And she just looked at me and she said, like, we don't give EpiPens here. We don't have any training.
His mom, Sherry, says she was terrified. She says she then found out Orange County Public Schools outsourced most before and after school programs to third-party vendors. And at the time, protocols varied from school to school.
Kids are eating breakfast there as well as after school snacks. And if nobody's trained on recognizing signs of an allergic reaction for him and giving him his EpiPen if needed, then he's just not safe.
After the Islers first shared their story, OCPS told News 6 they now require allergy and EpiPen training in all before and after school programs. But Isler wants to get results statewide. Last year, state lawmakers from Orlando proposed legislation to require training in before and after school programs, but it never made it into committee. This year, the issue is once again before lawmakers with House Bill 1197 and Senate Bill 1514.
What exactly would this bill do?
Right now, during regular school hours, they have an emergency action plan, an EAP, that says that if they have an EpiPen and if they have a reaction, that they'll get the EpiPen administered first and then 911 will be called. But it only covers regular school hours. So this bill makes sure that the EAP is effective at all times when a student is on campus, including before and after care, extracurricular, school dances, sports.
Both the CDC and the American Academy of Pediatrics recommend anaphylaxis and EpiPen training for school staff, which many organizations offer for free. And the need may be greater now than ever before. Food allergies are rising, now affecting 1 in every 13 kids.
There have been children that have died from anaphylaxis at schools, and it really shouldn't happen. As long as they have training on how to prevent an allergic reaction and how to treat it immediately, nobody has to die.
Lisa Bell, Getting Results, News 6. So that mom is hopeful that this will be the year that there is a statewide policy put into place, so kids who are there before school or after school will have some help from trained staff members. She said, a lot of parents just may assume that because school staff is trained and has access to the EpiPen, that people who are there for the before care or the after care program are also trained and also have access to the EpiPens, but that's not necessarily the case. So she wants to make sure that that is the case all across the state of Florida.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have children, and I'm was pretty stunned to find out that that's not a requirement for these before school and after school programs, especially as she said, I took part in those programs when I was a kid. There's always snacks and things like that. And,
Right.
kids share things that, cause they don't know. I mean, as a parent yourself, how strictly are the food allergies, even before the EpiPen training, how strictly are those policed in schools these days?
I would have no clue. I mean, I do have two boys who are in public school. Thankfully, they do not have food allergies, so it's not something that I necessarily think about. But just walking through a school, you see kids, they grab like the breakfast on their way into school, and it seems like sometimes they might share whatever is in that breakfast. And she said that actually the kids who are most at risk, which is surprising, are middle schoolers and high schoolers because they're a little more cavalier, and they might want to take a risk. They might not want to admit that they have a food allergy. And so they can sometimes be the most at risk. She cites a girl in Jacksonville who was 17 years old at an after school event and had a piece of baklava, and she has a nut allergy. And she apparently even asked the staff, are there nuts in this? And they said no. And she consumed that and ended up passing away from that. And that was
Oh
pretty
my God.
recently. So yeah, I mean, and some of these food allergies are so severe. She was telling me that just the dust from like nuts, being in contact, or if someone has milk allergy and they touch cheese and then touch that person's skin, it can cause a reaction. And there have actually been cases where kids have bullied other kids by doing something like that. And so not having staff who are trained to recognize signs of anaphylaxis and then how to give the EpiPen is very concerning. Now, there are a handful of states that do require that training, and she points out again, it is available for free. This bill has no financial impact on the state budget. So we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, just the fact that you would think anytime a child is on school grounds, they would be under the protection of that
Yes.
emergency plan, but just not the case.
No, you cannot make that assumption because that is not the case. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really stunning. Okay, and I know you're going to be following this as it moves its way through the legislature. Was there a reason given for the stall out last year, or was it just one of those things that falls into a committee and then just goes into a black hole?
So she spoke with lawmakers who said that the reason why it did not make it into a committee is because last year it was too broad. There were requirements in terms of how many people had to be trained. And so they really narrowed it down. Also, this only applies to before and after school programs and extracurricular activities, because she said there's already like a nurse and other staff who are on campus who are trained. So this bill is has been pared down. I think it's like 1.5 pages long, and she's hoping that this will be the year that it gets passed.
Yeah, absolutely. And every day that passes, we're getting closer and closer to that end of the legislative session. So hopefully it can, finish its rounds through all the committees and get to the Senate and House floors before too long.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Lisa, thank you so much. And when can we see your package again this evening?
It will be on, I believe, at 4 and at 5 o'clock. So, and of course, online at clickorlando.com.
Of course. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. It's a very good story, and thank you for following through with this.
Thank you.
All right. We are going to be taking a break now, but when we come back, we'll be taking a look at how FHP is cracking down on hit and runs here in the state of Florida, and also at a new drop-in center for homeless youths dealing with homelessness here in Central Florida, especially in the Pine Hills area. All that's going to be coming up in just about 2 minutes. Welcome back to Take 6. I'm streaming executive producer Thomas Mates, filling in for Julie Broughton. She is out on assignment, but she'll be joining us again starting on News 6 at 4 with your forecast. We know that hit and runs are a real problem on Florida's roads, and it is something that FHP is really cracking down on, especially when it comes to people not following Florida's move over law. News 6's Eric Von Aken spoke with FHP about how they are working to get results and protect our communities, cracking down on those hit and run drivers.
It was an evening back in January. A 37-year-old from Polk County broke down on the side of the road in Lake County. A tow truck stopped to help them, so he stepped out into traffic and he tried to flag traffic over to make people give him some space. Well, instead, the opposite happened. He was hit by a driver who didn't move over, crashed into the windshield, and then thrown into the mirror of that tow truck. He died at the scene. You can see the tow truck sticking out of the lanes of travel. Troopers gave us this picture from the night of the crash. What they didn't have, though, was the car and driver that caused it and took off. Lieutenant Tara Crescenzi of the Florida Highway Patrol. Lieutenant, you helped push out information about this crash, and you believe that's what led to you getting results.
Absolutely. It did lead to results.
You got 2 tips.
Correct. One of the drivers that was in the area at the time saw the crash, followed the vehicle, was able to provide us a make, model, and color.
Then you got a second tip.
Correct.
That led you to a hotel.
Yes. And then that's where we were able to get that vehicle, get search warrants for it, and be able to process it for evidence.
And then the guy turned himself in.
Correct. If he would have remained on scene, this could have been an entirely different situation.
We've been telling you that hit and runs are an epidemic in Central Florida. According to FHP, the latest numbers they have, in 2023, there were more than 100,000 hit and run crashes statewide. Most of them were minor, yes, but still 271 people were killed in hit and run crashes, and 871 people were seriously injured. If this driver had just moved over a lane, this person might still be alive.
Correct. If he would have just moved over the lane, this crash wouldn't have happened.
You're handing out a lot of tickets for people not moving over.
It's in violation of the law. In 2024, there were 17,544 citations issued.
17,000?
17,000.
Troopers say you really should know by now. The move over law has been on the books in Florida for more than 20 years. And remember, just last year, the law expanded to include moving over a lane for just about anybody stopped on the side of the road. And I should also tell you that the minimum mandatory punishment for leaving the scene of a crash where somebody is killed is 4 years in prison. Minimum mandatory. And if that's not enough to get you to stick around, think about this. Calling for help for the person you just hit may give that person a shot at living. Protecting our community in Orange County, Eric Von Aken getting results. News 6.
It's a sad statistic for our roads out there and here in Central Florida and across the state. As I mentioned earlier, there is a brand new drop-in center for to help adolescents and teens and children dealing with homelessness here in Central Florida, particularly in the Pine Hills area. It just opened today, and it's run by SALT Outreach. News 6's Mark Lehman tells us more about how that is getting results in the community out there.
Today's opening is a big milestone as the center offers stability for young people struggling with homelessness. You know, for years, SALT Outreach has offered mobile trailers for drop-in needs, but now with this building, those in the Pine Hills neighborhood will have a place they can rely on with resources to help them get back on their feet.
It's taken a lot of, blood, sweat, and tears to kind of make this possible.
Eric Camarillo says it's a game changer for helping young people who are homeless.
To have a headquarters, to have a place where youth and adults can come and have that refuge, that's going to be exciting.
He's the founder of Service and Love Together, or SALT Outreach. The nonprofit typically uses mobile drop-in trailers for 16 to 24-year-olds without housing. Now a permanent location is opening near West Colonial and Kirkman Road.
Yeah, so as soon as a youth and adult walks in, they'll come here to this front reception area.
We got a tour of the drop-in center that offers basic needs like being able to take a shower, do a load of laundry, and eat a meal.
They can get food, and also our team is going to help navigate them toward housing.
The goal for advocates is finding a home for everyone. That's why SALT offers mailboxes and internet access.
Being able to log in and do homework or access their class is going to be an important thing.
Camarillo says he was homeless at 20 years old, so all of this is a personal mission. He says this project was possible through a federal grant, but more help is always needed.
Let's get them what they need. Let's try and get them into a home as quickly as possible.
Camarillo says at this point the center here will be open Wednesday through Friday, but the goal is to expand that throughout the entire week. And to do that, he says he needs the community's help. We put details about that under this story on clickorlando.com. In Pine Hills, Mark Lehman getting results, News 6.
That is a really great resource for people out there in that community, especially for those kids dealing with those homelessness issues. Of course, News 6 is committed to following the homelessness crisis here in Central Florida, not only the homelessness, but the housing crisis that we're all dealing with. That, of course, we have a whole collection of coverage right now on clickorlando.com/homelessness. You can find all of our stories along with our media partners who are also helping in this collaboration to track the homelessness issue and look for solutions for people here in Central Florida. Again, that's all on clickorlando.com/homelessness, and it's available right now. That'll do it for us here on Take 6. We really appreciate you joining us. We'll be back for News 6 at 4. Julie Broughton will be back. She'll have your forecast, and of course, we'll have all your headlines for the day coming up, starting at News 6 at 4. And of course, you can always find us on clickorlando.com and on the News 6 YouTube page. Thank you so much for your time, and have a pleasant day.